I said, if I just leave this clip back here, do you think it'll pick up enough to be meaningful? Where do you want to start?
Seth's got all of these witnesses that have talked to him. They're describing or categorizing as Dogman. This subject in particular sort of makes him uncomfortable because it seems like there's so much more of a spiritual or non-material kind of element to it.
What are the odds? I'm only slightly more stitious.
Oh,
Might say that's a synchronicity.
Whatever we end up calling it. Present is Self and Ward Hiney. What are you producing?
I don't know. Producer-director, yeah.
Producer-director. And Justin, give me your last name again.
Domhoff.
Domhoff.
Dom.
Dorhoff.
D-O-M.
Domhoff. Justin Domhoff. What's your
That's a good
credit?
question.
What do you want it to be? Name it.
Camera operator? Tag along?
Camera operator / tag along. That's good.
Alright, so the deal is that Seth came to me, it's been a few months ago now. He has a bunch of witnesses that he and Heather and the Small Town Monsters crew had interviewed and had cataloged to interview for their American Werewolves project. We get the opportunity to go interview these people, record their experiences, and check out some of the locations where they've seen things. And so we're just going to go basically have an adventure. And I think it's an interesting dynamic to have you guys both coming on the, I'm a little weirder, I'd say more open to the plausibility of a lot of this stuff. So it's good to have a more, more grounded perspectives. So we're going to be following your adventure.
Fantastic. Following my adventure? I don't even believe in it. And what? Wolfman? Dogman? Werewolf? Ward wanted the skeptic. He got it. The next morning, we set out for the Shenango Valley in western Pennsylvania. I told Ward I wanted sightings with good descriptions with multiple credible witnesses. We started with Jamie and Jenny King, paranormal investigators with over 10 years' experience. What could they tell me about the area? And what did they learn with their unique approach to investigation?
Yeah.
Or what are we?
Right,
there's so much overlap.
To me, it's a
so
werewolf.
much.
Yeah. Right.
If you ask me, but
It's not something I want to encounter.
Right? Yeah.
no, from what I've heard, no. I do not want to encounter that, no.
And we're both in our 50s, but we met when we were 10 years old, so we've kind of grown up in this entire Shenango Valley, and
So we know each other pretty well.
pretty well, yeah. Really, I mean, our encounter, I don't talk about it a whole lot,
Sure.
but our encounter happened shortly after my father died, and he had passed away probably in March. I think it was March. And then it was like by September, Jenny said, you need to get back out and do things that you were doing, because I was kind of in this weird depression. And we went hiking, and we're on this turkey trail, and I had my dog with us. And at the time, I said this prayer. I said a prayer, Dad, if you're here, give me a sign that you're here. And I'm like a person that I communicate with nature. That's kind of what I do. And I said, Dad, give me a sign that you're here. And we started hiking down this trail, and we met at Shenango, where this creek feeds into the larger part of the Shenango Reservoir. And my dog was acting weird, so I picked the dog up. And when I picked my dog up, we heard this vocalization, this long, drawn-out, loud.
It sounded like a dinosaur,
Yeah.
is what it sounded like to me. I never heard anything like that in my life. It was so loud that you could actually feel it in your body. Like I actually felt like my vision was blurry. Like it was, very interesting.
And we actually watched this puddle in front of us ripple. So we're watching this puddle ripple, and Jenny and I are looking at each other, not really saying anything, because it was like nothing that we'd ever heard. And then
I felt stunned. I don't know about you, I felt kind of
I didn't
stunned.
feel stunned or scared too much, but I just felt like it was just a bizarre encounter. So I turned, and as I turned, I'm still holding my dog, and we started hiking out, and you could hear this thing behind us just doing this wah, sound, and you could actually feel like this, I don't know, kind of like an air on you, like
something was, I guess you'd say flanking you, is what you'd say, but when we went out the trail, we would have to turn this way, which is the direction it was going. So I was kind of nervous about having to turn and go up, but
And we also-
it stopped then. It stopped at that point.
Like a sound of wind or something pushing us out, and literally I think it was just in our brain, let's go. So that's what we did. So then we got into my truck and we started driving home, and we didn't say anything. When we got home, we started researching animal sounds and we couldn't figure out what we had heard. So our friend told us look up like Bigfoot vocalization. So we looked up this vocalization, and this recording came up, and it was called the Ohio Howl. And I'd never heard the Ohio Howl. I don't.
Me either.
So as soon as we heard it, we both looked at each other. And
Yeah, we both looked at each other like, that's it. But what we heard was so much bigger and so much louder.
way louder.
Yeah.
So then I think days went by, and I kept recycling that over in my brain, thinking like what happened, every detail. And I'm on my way to work, and I'm driving to work, and I remembered this voice kind of came to me that said, if you want the answer, go back to the beginning. And this is where our encounter sort of gets spiritual. But the beginning of that experience was saying that prayer on the turkey trail that we were on. And it hit me as I'm driving my car, and I'm driving, and I started thinking about it. The last memory that I had with my dad was he asked me to take him out on to the porch, and he said, Jamie, can you let me listen to the birds and look at the trees like one last time? And then he told me, take me in the house. So I took him in the house, and I'm in the house, and I said, Dad, do you want to watch a movie? So I'm driving in my car, and I'm remembering all this, and the very last movie, it hit me as I'm driving, that he watched was Harry and the Hendersons. So that's where the whole thing became spiritual to me. So like, we've known each other since we were 10. Like literally this physical encounter that we had with this thing at the Shenango turned into this like spiritual thing. My mission was to understand the power of our thoughts and prayers. So like Jenny and I started studying hiking more and we started
Yeah.
studying like the power of our thoughts. So then like our research, we kind of utilized the 12 universal laws, and that's how we research. So like it's all a thought process.
So you guys get out into the wild, into the wilderness, and just kind of just be. Do you guys do anything when you're out and about to, I don't know, provoke any kind of a reaction, or to draw out whatever spiritual energies there might be in the area?
I don't really go out to provoke, but spiritually, yeah. Like I've gone out with my incense and my crystals and other things and kind of experiment that way, yeah. Do some meditation, like sometimes we go out just to meditate and sit for a while, because I think when you're out there for a while, you're in nature, and nature recognizes you, not just you recognizing nature.
You see this Bigfoot community, and most people are on the physical level. They want to see a physical evidence, and they want all of that. But for us, it's all, like we'll probably be doing this for the rest of our life, whatever, searching for answers of all kinds of things, like even my father passing and like what that all meant to this. But I mean, we experiment with CSETI, which is Dr. Stephen Greer. So he does this protocol with calling in ET, and we've had really super cool encounters with that. And the other thing would be, like, we're not afraid to sit in the forest and communicate with whatever might be there, which could be the Fae or whatever. And this sounds very woo. Never realized that this community has like these divisions, and this is who you have to be, or this is who you have to be. Just, do you, and if you get results, that's awesome. And I think we kind of do.
The king suggested we talk to Albert Walker, who claimed to have seen something emerge from the woods near protected federal land in the Shenango Valley. And so you said you're 52. When you're 15, you were late 40s when you saw your Bigfoot, and then your Dogman. Correct. So you've been 7 years old, so we're talking 40 years you've been looking for this thing. And then
I haven't really been looking for it.
Yeah.
Because nobody looks for it. But you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Nobody looks for it.
Yeah.
It could be right there. It could be over there. It could be there. You don't look for it. He'll let you know.
Fair enough. So from where we're at, you said it was down that ways, right by what, the yellow diamond sign, is that?
I'm gonna say right where those taller trees are.
Okay,
I was approximately right there.
okay.
And if you want, we can walk down there, but right where that weight limit sign is.
Oh, the white one right here.
Right here.
Yeah, okay.
So that may be 75 to 100 yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can walk down here.
What was it that triggered Jamie?
About it being right in this area. There isn't like a trail of some kind of animal right here. Came out of right in this area.
So it steps out. Did you see it step down, jump over the ditch, or was it just into the roadway before you saw it?
I seen it when it was approximately right here, and then it came here, and it kind of trotted across, not run, not like an animal. It stepped across. Because you think about it, about right there where those taller trees are, approximately where that deer sign is, maybe a little up, and it comes out here, and it kind of like goes across, you know, at a pretty good pace. It was a slender figure. I'm gonna say approximately 175 to maybe a little over 200 pounds.
Okay.
Approximately 6 foot, 6.5 foot.
Okay.
I did see a nose on it.
Okay. But not human.
No,
Okay.
no.
What would you, if you had to say what it was? What do you?
A dog standing up on hind legs and going across. It was a bigger head on it. I could see the nose, and I seen this side of the ear
Okay. Sticking up.
sticking up.
Okay.
It didn't run. It trotted across the road. Took maybe 5-6 steps going across. I had enough time to get across before I got there.
Gotcha. Okay. This was the same forest where the Kings had done a great deal of investigation, the Golden Run Wildlife Area. What did I need to know about these federal lands? Was there something in their history that could help explain these experiences?
A lot of the tribes that were around here, like the Shenango is the Shenango, let me say it right.
It means a beautiful one. So it was
Yeah.
like this indigenous person that lived amongst the other tribes. And then you have the Lenni Lenape, which the other part of the Shenango closer to the swampy area is Lenni Lenape land. So that they have a name for Sasquatch, which is Masingwa. And Masingwa is something that, like, I'll use that word, Masing. It's actually a longer word, but I'll use that and say it out loud. And I'll say some of the tribal things, like the noises that they believe it makes, and then see if we get responses. And we've had things happen. Well, I should tell you a little more about that location.
Yeah, great. Please.
Okay, so that location, when the Shenango was built in 1965 or 67, somewhere around in the 60s, they used eminent domain. So eminent domain was they told people they had so long to get out of there, and they vacated their property, and then they flooded it for the water control.
Yeah, not everybody left.
Not everyone left,
Yeah.
but I believe people died, and I believe that cemetery, there were cemeteries where bodies washed up. They said that they relocated them, but they really relocated the
bodies,
stones. So it's very, very haunted, and there's that element.
Right. So what is it about the two experiences, insofar as you know, the conversations that you've had?
Right.
What makes them different, and why are they being classified
Well,
differently in your mind?
okay,
And
so
on your map.
I would say that the reason that they're classified differently is because the Lenni Lenape tribe that's been in this area and I've spoken with I think 3 different people that belong to that tribe. They say that there has been this like rivalry between the Sasquatch and this thing Dogman. So that's maybe why. I mean, I don't really have an interest in seeing something that's like a dog that could eat you. I don't like putting labels on something, but I guess if
Fair
as
enough.
a kid that grew up watching movies, werewolves seem bad. But I mean, like, I don't know. You would have to ask one of them if you ever get a chance to speak to indigenous people.
Yeah,
It's
I'd
always
love to.
good too.
I don't know. I used to have nightmares about werewolves when I was younger.
Oh yeah, I
So, you know, talking about Dogman, it makes me think of the nightmares I had when I was like from like 13 to 16. Kid you not, I had all these nightmares all the time about werewolves.
Can I ask you to tell us about one of them?
Oh gosh, one of them.
You can feel free to say no. Like, I get it.
Wow, it's just the nightmares that I would have would be in the nightmare, in the backyard, the sun would be just coming up and there would be a werewolf, and then I guess what you'd call like just regular wolves on all fours, and it would want to come in the house. It would want me. And I'm like, oh, it was very scary. I just had these nightmares for, like I said, like 3 years, and I actually trained myself how to wake myself up because they were so scary. I'm like, I can't. I would actually just wake myself up. I'm like, Jenny, please wake up.
Tell them about that other thing.
What thing?
I mean, we've known each other since we were 10, so I remember her telling me this one story. Tell them. This
Which
is really
one?
The eyes. The eyes.
Oh, that was yeah, I was in the bedroom and my mom and dad were at a party. This is on the weekend. I'm at home by myself. I'm an only child. And I'm just in my bedroom and I'm listening to Duran Duran, and I got my music on and candles, but I blew the candles out and there was one little night light on, but when I looked in the window, there were these 2 like gold looked like eyes floating in the air. And I wasn't scared, which is amazing. How I wasn't scared, I don't know, but I saw these eyes. But underneath that window is the steps to the basement, so there couldn't be anything standing there. And somebody said, well, maybe it was an owl. I'm like, I guess that's possible, but the eyes were pretty big. I'm like, I don't know.
Listen,
That was pretty
we've
interesting.
known each other since we were 10, so I literally remember her coming to
Yeah.
school telling me this.
It
and I'm
was a
like,
long
this is
time
so
ago.
Crazy.
You said you had candles lit. Were your candles for ambiance, or you've talked about using incense as well
Yeah.
to kind of?
Oh, now you're
help
going to
you
get to
connect.
know me even better, because I was actually, I think I was 16 years old, and I was actually doing, I don't know what you want to call it, because at that time I didn't know what to call it. I was just lighting candles and playing music, and I was almost doing like something like I guess it was kind of like a ritual that I was doing. I guess you could put it that way. I would say that now. At the time, it was just something that felt like I wanted to do, because I was putting something out to the universe, which I understand that a little bit more now.
Sure.
But at the time, you know, I didn't. So I don't know if I conjured something or.
Have you pursued any kind of, I don't know, magic rituals, anything else? Have you sought out more knowledge in that realm?
Oh yeah. Now that I'm older, I definitely have looked into, of course, like you know, Wicca or something like that. But I wouldn't say that I'm actually a witch. I would say I'm just kind of like a child of nature and the universe. And when something feels right, then I'll go with it, because to me, maybe like spiritually, or it's like an inner knowing, I just go with it.
How how young were you when you started performing those rituals? Opening that up.
I
to
probably
you?
was like 16.
That was about.
Yeah, it was about the time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Have you attempted to use ritual in investigative work out, like in?
Well, as far as like doing the incense and maybe like a meditation, because I think when you do a meditation, it kind of grounds you. You're already grounded because you're out in nature, but it grounds you even more. You can meditate, get in that comfortable space where you're kind of one with your environment, which I think makes the environment more open, if I can explain it that way.
The other thing would be like the Dr. Stephen Greer sea study. So like when I say that Jenny and I have experimented with the field, I call all of this the field. And Dr. Stephen Greer literally is using the CE5, so it's human initiated contact. And we've had super fascinating things happen, and we'll use recorders. So we use these recorders, and like we have used with this research in the woods looking for Sasquatch. we've had activity on the recorder. We've had activity on the recorder when we have these things. We've had things appear in the sky. So, like, to me, it's about maybe as human beings, we're unaware of the fact that we are this huge receiving and tuning and receiving of energy that goes out, you know, and we don't realize how powerful it is. Mm-hmm. So we're only on this planet a short amount of time, so why not practice and experiment with all of that? And that's kind of what we do. Yeah, that's what we do.
I wish I knew birds by sound.
Yeah.
We're walking back through that wooded area. There's a lot of activity and very cool voices, but
I know Bert by sound. Jamie has been in that area doing research prior to him seeing the thing, coming out of that very section of woods. That seems interesting to me.
Interesting in what way?
Well,
decode that for me, because it feels pregnant.
Yeah, so insofar as I have any kind of like theory of what's going on already, it would not surprise me if around an area where there's all of this intention and energy being put into finding stuff, someone comes along and sees stuff.
Our next witness was Doug Leith. His experience occurred very close to Bert's, both in time and in proximity. We met him at a local coffee shop to hear his story.
It was like in December of 2014, I worked at a local place outside of Mercer. It was called Chevron. They made towing equipment, and I worked night shift. It was a 10-hour night shift. And that night that I was coming home, that I saw whatever I saw, we usually got off at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was late, you know. There was a car in front of me, a coworker was in front of me. I was in my vehicle in the middle, and then I had 2 coworkers behind me in another vehicle. And we were roughly the same distance apart, a couple hundred yards roughly. And we're driving up Route 62, and what's that giant thing that's brown walking up Route 62 on the left-hand side of the road? And I'm like, okay, and it was kind of Carhartt brown, kind of like the color of your pants.
Okay.
A very fluid moving creature. And if it was a person, it was the biggest person I've ever seen in my entire life. I've met Max Starks from the Steelers, and this made Max Starks from the Steelers look like my daughter. 6.5, 7.5 feet tall, a couple 100 pounds, just mammoth, just giant pro bodybuilder mammoth. I've met Jay Cutler, who was a former Mr. Olympia. He was wider than Jay Cutler.
Okay.
And I was just, you know, and I didn't get no facial features. No, it's not that, I don't know what you'd call the Hollywood sighting, you know, long flowing hair and none of that. I was like, holy, what's that? Well, now the person in front of me, we pulled into the sheets there that's in Mercer. He was already parked. I got out of my truck and I said, did you see, and he cut me off and he goes, that giant MFer walking up the side of the road. I said, yeah. You know, he's like, yeah, I don't know what it was huge. And just in that little call or dialogue we had, the people behind me pulled in. And I said to the kid who was driving the truck, his name was Dennis. I said, Dennis, did you and, what are you talking about? We didn't see anything. So something was walking up the side of the road, but when my friend Alan saw it, it was on the right-hand side of the road. When I saw it, it was on the left-hand side of the road. Now, I don't know if you went to where this area was, but Route 62, that time of night, there's not really very many homes. There wasn't a broken down car. Whatever was walking up the side of the road didn't have a flashlight in its hand. There was no light, no broken down car. Now, people fly up and down that road. I was doing 65, 70 miles an hour. I don't know about you, but I'm not gonna cross a dark road in the middle of the freaking night, 3 o'clock in the morning, kind of, it doesn't make any sense to me. I didn't see a person
Right.
walking up that side of that road. There's no way. The gait of how it moved.
Can you describe that movement at all?
Smooth. Just no head bobbing, no, in the time that I saw it, it was just slick, But the thing that makes me say the whole thing was the size. There's not a person that big.
Okay.
I'll go to my grave saying that what I saw wasn't a person. That's 3,000%. That's a non-arguable fact with me.
Have you seen anything since then?
No, sir. I've had what you would, I don't know if you'd even call them Bigfoot experiences. I don't know, probably 8 years ago, I was at Moraine State Park night fishing by myself. And I was going back to my truck, and I was walking through this little patch of woods, and I heard something walking through the woods, and it sounded like somebody was walking with hip boots on through brush. It was whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That made me stop. Everything was freaking quiet, like quiet. And I mean, I've hunted my whole life, I've camped my whole life, I've fished my whole life. Nothing's ever run me out of the woods, nothing, but I was like, man, this isn't cool. Like, what's this?
Yeah.
And I stood my ground, didn't hear anything walk away, but the sounds started to come back into the woods. I don't know what it was, I didn't see anything. I just heard something extremely off. But when you stop and you're like, I don't know, dude, maybe you shouldn't kind of be here right about now. I said, didn't see anything. Heard something scared me pretty good.
Yeah.
Like where I go fishing is by what they call the old Snyder Cemetery. And there's some weirdo crap that happens there, supposedly. I've never witnessed anything, but the one part of Moraine State Park, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but to make Lake Arthur, they flooded a bunch of farms and stuff. And there's a place there that you park, and there's an old, like a foundation of a home. We can fish up and down the bank and do whatever. And I was fishing down the bank, and I had to come through the woods to get back to my truck. Just him hauling a line. Okay, something's getting you feel goofy, you know what I mean? I'm kind of getting goosebumps about it now. You kind of goofy feeling. And then you heard, and that's the only thing that I can kind of compare it to was somebody walking through high brush, kind of hard brush, and hip boots. That whoosh.
That was before
whoosh.
or after you saw this on Route 62?
62, and then I heard this out on Lake Arthur. If you're meant to see something like that, or something like that's meant to happen to you, what are you going to do to combat it? Nothing. That's between you and whatever higher power you believe in. There's Doug, there's whatever, here you go. A lot of stuff makes a lot of different noises in the woods. I didn't see anything in the woods that night. What I saw walking up 62, I saw it, More uneasy at Moraine State Park? Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was standing there with a fishing rod in my hand.
This part of the Shenango Valley, where Doug and Bert had their experiences, was of particular interest to the Kings. They've plotted their own findings and experiences, along with witness reports that they've investigated, on a map of their own design.
So basically, this is like a micro study of like where we research, and it's all freehand that I did from my own brain, and I got a pretty good idea of geography, but all of these red are Bigfoot sightings historically in this area. Like, people have told us their claims. These other ones are Dogman, which they kind of all stay to this side of the lake, which is the west side of the lake. And off this map is the other part of Mercer County, and there were two sightings. There would be, the first one was a nurse, and she was living up near County Line Road where there's Geneva Swamp, and that was a really cool witness, and that was also Mercer County, so not very far from Shenango. And then there's another lake called Pymatuning, and then there's another Geneva Swamp, which it's a lot of water. And then the second encounter was most recently we interviewed this girl at one of the conferences, and she was telling us her encounter where she's also a nurse. So these two girls were both nurses, so those are things that I always like pay attention to, like what their profession was. And she was a nurse, and she was driving, and she said this, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and this thing went across the road, and she said that it had like a face like a dog. And I think she even described it saying that it had a tail, but it had these strange legs. And then she said, like in the weirdest way, she said, and it just disappeared. So it was not like this, it was like physically didn't like keep running, but it just disappeared in front of her. And she, you know, believable witnesses, definitely.
So you get contacted, you get this story, it's a great story, it sounds credible.
Yeah.
Why did we add it onto the Sasquatch map?
Because like you're trying to put a puzzle piece together, so all of these things are unknowns. So I've added like structures, and when I say a structure, I don't know what built that structure, but it's definitely something that's organic, and it's there's intelligence behind it. And I know the difference between like a tree fall, and I also know the difference of something that's being torqued out of a tree. Like we have Jenny's a great observer of nature, and she observed there were these 9 tree branches twisted out of a tree. So it's not something that a human could do, and it built these structures. And like I was amazed too at how many different structures there were in and around this whole shenango. And you know, I think after my own encounter with what I believe to be Bigfoot, that's when things started, I started documenting more and more things that I couldn't explain.
May 12, this will be a phone call with Brian Seach, physically present myself, Ward Hiney, Justin Werewolf. Good there? Hey, so Heather kind of gave us your name as like an investigator who's kind of looked into the Dogman werewolf thing, kind of a local area expert in the Pennsylvania area. So we wanted to reach out to you because, frankly, we've been down here doing a handful of interviews, and we are really struggling to find like pointedly Dogman stories. We have one that we did that we got a specific, hey, this is a Dogman sighting, and we went through it, and it was a good interview. Everybody else seems to be relatively reluctant to engage the topic. There's this general air of unease that we're finding around the subject. So I was wondering if you could give us kind of a historical take of the area that we're in. We're in Greenville right now. We're over in Clark. But if you can give us just like your historical perspective, what you've seen in and around Shenango, and anywhere else nearby that you think is us worth looking at.
As far as the Shenango Valley werewolf, yes, people up there are really reluctant to speak about it. They'll speak in hushed tones, or they'll speak, hey, you know, someone, maybe one of my friends saw it, but doesn't really want to talk about it. So it's a really weird subject up there. I will tell you that.
Yeah, we're definitely finding that. And it's kind of, like, I hate to say it, but it's kind of putting us into a corner where we don't have a whole lot of other places left to go.
Yeah.
Do you have any areas that you could point us to, or anything werewolf related that would be interesting for us?
I think because, you know, there may be some other things happening up there, but people are really reluctant to come out and talk about it. Now, they're more reluctant to come out and talk about a Bigfoot sighting because Bigfoot's more culturally known. When these people see these things, there's sort of a menacing evil about them. I mean, they look at you, they look at you with these glaring, either red, yellow eyes, and there's a sense of kind of a malevolence about them. It's not like a lot of your typical Bigfoot stories where they're just looking at you and they run one way and you go the other. Some of them will come towards you, they'll growl, they seem menacing. So yeah, there is that fear element when some of these people see these Dogman type entities.
Yeah, we brought it up to the Kings last night, and they had a physical recoil. They were not at all interested in having a Dogman experience. As open as they are to getting in touch with whatever it is out there in nature and communing with it. Man, we brought that up, and they I won't say they freaked, but there was a very definite resistance, and their reaction, like I said, is kind of what we've been running into, that sense of unease.
When these people talk about these creatures, I remember I was at a picnic one time and I was talking about Linda Godfrey's book.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Werewolf. I mentioned, and the guy who was there, he looked at me, his face kind of started to get white. He said, "This is what I saw." He said, "I saw this in Westmoreland County. It ran underneath there was a fence going into a power substation, and this creature actually ran and went right underneath the fence." He goes, "I'm going to tell you, I hate to say this, it looked like a damn werewolf, a Hollywood werewolf." And you'll hear this. Not a good time, not a good, when people see these things, it is very scary to them. I mean, I know, put it this way, if I'm in the woods and I see a giant upright painted creature coming after me growling, I'm going to be scared too. Let's be honest about it.
One of the things that Heather gave us is a mention of something called the Heritage Trail, and we can't find it. We've been digging around up here, we've been Googling it, and we can't track it down. Is that something that has come up in your research before? Does that ring any bells for you?
Well, the Heritage Trail, it is not there. The Heritage Trail is up in not Mercer. I think it's Westmoreland or Indiana County. Now, if you not an easy way, but if you would type in Livermore Cemetery, get the directions to that because it's not that hard to find. If you go to Livermore Cemetery, you'll pull off to the left. The cemetery will be in front of you. You'll see a sign there. It says Penn Heritage Trail.
Okay.
That's the trail that, again, I will say allegedly, we heard, and I want to say rumors, maybe, but you guys kind of know how that goes, of a alleged werewolf cult there. One of our friends says he was up there one time and there was about 3 trucks. I believe they were black trucks and they all had wolf plates on them. And kind of the rumor started, hey, maybe that's where they go. If they change, they morph into werewolves that they run there. You do have to take a lot of that with a grain of salt. I got to tell you that.
Right.
I don't personally believe someone physically can turn into a werewolf.
But the story is, let me make sure I understand this, because you said werewolf cult, and my thought initially was, a group of people worshiping whatever, deity, spirit, but you're talking about, the story is that these are people who actually, transform from human into, the werewolf form.
Well, apparently that's
the story.
Yeah, it's a story, and as we found out with the dog boy, one person's dog boy is all of a sudden it's a little werewolf boy. No, the boy had issues with hypertrichosis. So I think a lot of so-called I don't want to say urban legends because a lot of legends do have our basis in truth, but they expand over time. So this is what might be happening with some of these so-called werewolf cults or people changing into werewolf, things like that.
Yeah, sure. All right, I appreciate it. Ward, do you have anything?
Do you know, are you familiar with the lady who has a story about someone coming into her, she had a metaphysical store and this person comes in? Do you know this story?
Yes, I do. The eyewitness, I talked to the lady who at one time had the store. She does not have it anymore. And this gentleman came in, very strange, very...
I think I just lost him. Yeah, we just dropped all signal, just blacked out. You have 0 bars and an exclamation point. I don't think so. It says you don't have a SIM card. Did your SIM card just die?
Hello?
Hey, Brian, Chad Christy. Hey,
something happened there. I don't know what happened.
Ward's phone just took a crap. It just died.
Okay.
So we were talking about...
We're not supposed to talk about this, right?
Yeah. But you were getting ready to talk about the story about the lady with the metaphysical store?
Yes. Well, basically, just what I know about that is this one...
Did you feel as though you were this center, this nexus? Were people drawn to you, drawn to your store? Was it?
Yeah, they still come down there looking to see if I'm still there. They came in from other states and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for the store out front, the Magical Man?
Yeah.
Okay. Any customers of interest? Anything of note? Anything weird? That
All of them.
any more than the others? Any interesting stories? that you'd like to
yeah.
share?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Werewolf.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. I didn't believe in werewolves.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in any of that, vampires and all of that. But this wasn't something I could deny. He came into the store and he said, "Can I talk to you about something?" I said, "Okay." And I'm thinking, I don't know this guy, you know. And he came over and he didn't know how to tell me this stuff, but he said, "I'm afraid." First he said he was afraid. And I was afraid of what? He said, "Can we keep this confidential, you know?" Which I do. I don't usually give out his name or anything to this day, because I thought, oh my God, you know, my life could be in danger here, which he pretty much told me it was, because he said that when I asked him, I said, "Can you?" He told me, he said, "I'm a werewolf." I'm thinking, oh God, not another one of these. I ended up with someone one time that came to me from the Board of Mental Health, and that one almost killed me.
So how was this claim different?
Very different. He started talking about he had met somebody, and that's what he was doing here. He'd come from California. And here, she had a daughter. They were supposed to get married and all of this. Everything was going good, you know, but he said, "I'm starting to get those bad feelings back." I said, "What bad feelings?" And he said, "Well, the werewolf feelings." I'm thinking, oh my God, this is getting worse. So he said, "I'm afraid of hurting the little girl." Of course, then I'm thinking maybe I need to call the cops at this point, you know, because I used to turn some things over if it got really bad. He said, "It's getting to be full moon time." He says, about a week before full moon, I start changing. He said, and of course I had 50 million questions to ask him because I didn't believe him in the first place. He said, "I start changing." He said, "And then on full moon, I have to go off somewhere." He says, "I have to go off before that." And she doesn't even know where I go. I said, "How did you become one?" And he said, "It's my father." He said it was passed down through the males, which I didn't know any of this, nothing. And he said his father was dead, you know, when he came in to see me. He was from a group of werewolf in California, a pack. We referred to them as the pack. And they was actually after him at that point because they didn't want him telling anybody or being anywhere, because other people would be a threat to the pack. And they said they would kill him if he didn't come back. So he was threatened by them. He was afraid to go back, and he was afraid not to go back. He didn't know what to do because he wanted to marry her. But he came to me because he was afraid of hurting the little girl. He said, "What am I gonna do with the full moon coming and everything?" It's getting to the point where he said, "Last month I got myself out of it. This time I don't know what to do." Because they were getting closer, you know, and he was expected to be with the little girl more and take care of her. And he didn't know how. He says, "How am I gonna get away?" and all of this stuff. Well, he managed to. That time he came back in the following week, and he said to me, I said, "How'd things go?" And he says, "Well," he says, "I took off." He says, "I actually woke up beside a dead rabbit." He said, "I didn't have anything on. I was out in the woods and I was beside a dead rabbit, half eaten."
He said that he was worried about this group coming after him, the pack coming back after him from California, that his life might be in danger.
Yeah.
You also said that because you were talking with him, your life might be in danger.
Yes, because I said, "I don't believe you." I came right out and said, "I don't believe anything you're telling me." I said, "Do you have any proof?" And that's when he said, "I do." He said, "But unfortunately, you would die because I would change." He said, "To show you what I am, it would be you seeing me and I would kill you."
So he was worried about harm that he would do to you, not
Yes.
necessarily somebody else.
Right.
Okay.
I took a group of people into where I knew where he worked. He worked in the Walmart. And I said, "His face is changing," because I'd seen him that day. I said, "You guys got to see this." So, and they said, how are we going to see that? Well, I could tell you some of the people that were involved in, going there. And so we ended up going to Walmart, and here he was working that, and I said, he's going to get suspicious. And I said, well, really what we have to do is just, walk up this, because we needed some batteries anyway, for the cameras and all. So we started walking up, and says, when I see him, I'll just say hi to him and everything. He was growing more hair here. His eyebrows were getting thicker. Now, your eyebrows don't get thicker in 1 day or 2 days. They don't all of a sudden get bushy like that and you become like a little unibrow thing going on. His face was changing and his chin was getting pointier. Now, your features aren't going to change like that. So I thought, okay, I'm imagining this. So I had them come into the store and I said, now one of them had seen him before. And I said, does he look different to you? He says, yeah, he does look different. And he did look different. He was born into that, and so were the ones he was connected with. But there are ones out there you have to watch out for because, like when I went to a place, I don't want to say that one, I've told you about that one. There was even license plates on the back of the vehicles that said Werewolf on it. And there's people running around right now doing wicked things, and you have to be afraid of those.
So we were talking to Brian earlier, and he named a location and kind of intimated this story a little bit. If I say the name, can you confirm it for me?
Yeah.
He said Livermore?
Yeah.
Okay. What, you said that these people they're not actually werewolves, but they're trying to. What are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish?
I have seen some people pull all kinds of things. They'll do anything and everything, and it's not good. And they're dangerous, and people don't realize this. And people need to be careful when they go into woods.
I'm looking at it right there. Let's try that. Dolores and Brian had piqued my curiosity. I wanted to see Livermore Cemetery and walk the Heritage Trail. With these stories of actual shapeshifters and cult worship, I was hopeful we'd stumble across some evidence, or experience some strangeness for ourselves. What we found was a peaceful hike through beautiful country, a decommissioned rail line that ended in a barred-off tunnel.
Let's see the bars.
Bars are back.
Yeah. Like a really long tunnel. Yeah.
I mean, there's no marking, but it looks like a long walk into nothing. Portal's bad. Portal.
This is 1 inch angle iron.
I mean, there's a bar, an entire bar missing.
That's easier to do than bending it.
You see that up there? That's what we're saying.
I'm saying it.
You don't think someone climbed all the way up that hill?
But why?
Actually, it looks like someone had an angle grinder up there and cut the. I don't know why you would cut at the top though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if a werewolf cult is going underground to perform transmogrification.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right here. We're right here.
Yeah, no, I'm game. Let's try it.
If I scream, oh crap, I'm being eaten by Dogman, that means oh crap, I'm being eaten by Dogman.
Yeah, but it's great for the film.
Dog prints, like actual dog prints.
Let me see.
Yeah, right here.
Is that your shoe?
No, it's far too small for my shoe. So.
Okay. And the canine family?
Yeah.
Like.
I am not prepared for this.
Is that a rock? Yeah, well, yeah, and that's what they use.
Did it fall out of the ceiling directly above it?
Yep. Maybe we should go back.
Say again?
Maybe we should go back. I think is this the end of it? Shine your light straight ahead.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's a whole collapse. Oh.
All right, I'm good to go back.
Wait, is it collapsed, or is it a wall? Yo, it's fully collapsed.
Yeah, that's fully collapsed. Look
at that.
There's some marking up there.
It definitely goes through it.
Yeah.
Can you look at the ground and see if we got any tracks, anything?
Can you make the Dogman track for us?
I mean, I don't know if it'd be convincing. You want the hero silhouette against the... After an uneventful night on the Heritage Trail, we received word that another werewolf witness had agreed to speak with us. I didn't have high hopes. I had no expectation that this ordinary middle American family would give me exactly what I'd been asking for.
I mean, I tell people, like, if they ask about it or whatever, but he's more, I don't want anybody to know because I sound crazy.
So, I guess generally speaking, we can start with, if you guys don't mind, just kind of walk me through your event, through your day. What were you guys, where were you coming from? What were you doing? Give me the lead up to it, and then we'll get into the meat of it.
So actually it was like when we first started dating, I had stayed here the night before, and he was driving me to the place I was living on Mule Street.
How far back was this?
This was in May of 17.
Okay.
Actually about the middle of May. So it was like spring, summer, start of summer. And it was just turning daylight. We were driving down Mule Street in a truck, not this particular truck, but the same type of truck. And he was taking me home to get ready for work. Driving along, completely sober, you know, ready to go to work for the day. And we get going down Mule Street past the Mercer Pike intersection. And all of a sudden, like, I didn't see it as we were driving. It just appeared, like, right there when we were about to hit it, right beside the telephone pole. This thing looked kind of demonic. It was standing at the edge of the road, so it's kind of like on the ditch side by the telephone pole. And it actually stuck its hand, which was a full hand. It wasn't like a mangy bear. It was an actual hand, and the hands had claws on them, and it stuck its hand out like, please don't hit me. So it partially covered its face, and the other hand came like in front of the windshield. I was sitting in the passenger seat. The thing itself, I mean, the truck is this tall, and it was probably at least this height, putting its hand out in front of us.
Let me pause you, because that's, I think, a really good place for it. So you said it's got these giant hands, it's got these claws,
yes,
kind of off the fingers, and it's covering up its face. What of its face did you see?
I mean, I still saw like the whole outline of it. It definitely had the backwards knee like a dog. It was, if I can word it, saying it looked scrawny, but it was very muscular. And its skin was kind of a gray leather. It, you know, talking about a mangy bear, it was kind of mangy looking, only on the head and like the top part of its back. It definitely had more of an elongated face. I didn't like vividly see or remember the eyes, the teeth, anything like that, because like I said, it kind of put the other hand up to protect itself. I think.
You used the word demonic.
Yes.
What brought that to mind?
I mean, it looked unworldly. It didn't look like it belonged in this world. I never seen anything like it. It was ugly, scary looking. So, at that point, I was kind of like, what was that? And I saw him kind of glance at me, and he asked, did you see that too?
Yes.
Or did I say?
You've seen that too, yeah.
And I said, what the heck was that? Might have used different language, but, and he said yes. So Like, I didn't even look in the rearview mirror or a back mirror because I honestly did not want to ever see it again. He drove me maybe a mile farther up the road and dropped me off to get ready for work. You know,
What was that conversation like?
there was dead silence.
Yeah, I don't think we talked at all.
It was dead silence, complete silence.
I got yelled at for not staying.
I was
while
like,
she
you
got
didn't
ready
walk
and
me
left."
into the house. You didn't wait for me to get ready. What if that thing came to my house and killed me, ate me, whatever? So yeah, he dropped me off. I went in and that was all I could think about. He went to go back home and then that's when he actually seen it again.
So when I left, was on my way home. Now it was on the same side of the road again, but we're looking at a very large field. I would say probably, I bet it's 500 plus deep yards, and width-wise is probably a good 300 plus.
Good size.
I mean, it's a big field, yeah. So as I'm driving by, I just kind of like scanning, watching. By this time, it's a little bit more light. So like I said, we were at that stage of day. So I'm looking and I see it kind of middle of field. So right after where I seen it, there's a crossroads. So I hit the brakes, whip in, turn around, back out, come up. And at this point, like from that amount of time, and we're talking, you know, I maybe went 200 feet and turned around real fast. And it went from center of the field to into the woods. Like I watched it take that last boom in the woods.
How did it move? So you're kind of watching it in its final getting out of the field into the woods.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it's weird. It was like a hunker just with a ton of speed. I don't even know how to really explain that part. Like
You said it was
wasn't-
on
Yeah, it was like
on all four when
How
you
do I-
first seen it.
So you know how like when a deer is running at its fastest speed, it goes from that like just a regular run to a straight bouncing. No, that's kind of how it did, but it used its front legs and back legs to like leap, bounce, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was really just, it was so fast and it was such a large span of area that it just kind of blew me away. I'd never seen anything like that.
When you were coming through, when you first spotted it at the field, did you get a better look at it, or?
I mean, all I just seen was basically what she said. You had the trying to protect the face, the hand out, and it had that elongated snout. And I seen, because of where I was at, I just seen basically probably better angle of face, but I couldn't really, it was more of a shock. Yeah. Like I couldn't believe what I seen. I didn't want to believe what I seen, you know.
I mean, I honestly ended up working out in Hermitage, like out by the Shenango River. And there were certain days or nights that I kind of would get these feelings. I still occasionally feel like one is somewhere close. I definitely prayed to never see it again or let my family see it again. So whether I'm being protected and it might be looking, I'm just not seeing it, I don't know. But I do, you know, like my friends and family, some of them will kind of laugh and be like, you're crazy, no. And I'm like, you know, I hope you never see it, but if you do, you'll understand, because it's, yeah.
I think part of the reason why I really wanted to just drop her off and get back was because I really wanted to validate what I seen, but it was too far out at that point for me to validate, yes, this is exactly what it was. There's nothing I can compare it to make sense of it. You know, not, you know, a bear with mange, some kind of weird deer. There's nothing. There's just nothing.
In your mind, as you're thinking back on this, or putting yourself back in that place, when you have this thing in your mind, do you think of it as a creature, a thing that was there, or do you think of it as something else?
To put a name on it, when we looked it up and we were trying to figure it out, it's a Dogman. That's what we seen. We seen something that was dog, but on its hind legs like a person and had hands like a person.
The Russells' sighting wasn't far from the Shenango where Bert and Doug had their experiences. And it wasn't too far from the King's reports of strangeness at Golden Run. I wanted to see the area where this sighting occurred, so we went to walk the ground where this one event had been shared by multiple credible witnesses.
It was on the passenger side, so we know they were coming
this way.
That's a
So if I'm here, right, whatever, but that's a long arm.
Yeah, it's a long arm.
Either way, I'm nowhere close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even now, and I hate to admit that because, I'm a guy. I ain't supposed to admit to this. Right. But I don't really enjoy going to my tree stands in the dark. I still go, but I don't like it. I don't like coming out in the dark. I've been face to face with a bear in these woods before and in the middle of the night, and it never scared me like the thoughts of what I've seen. But I try not to let it, I try not to let it bother me because I enjoy hunting and I enjoy the outdoors, and I just can't. But no, there's nothing like that exists.
And then you can see what he means about the distance from the road all the way to the tree line on the far side.
Yeah.
Also, what's weird about that is game doesn't do that. It's not gonna bolt in the open like that.
So
it's gonna travel the tree line because it's gonna get cover.
So when I was asking him about the better description, the better feel, it makes sense why he wouldn't have had it.
He would have had an impression of the locomotion, that it's a bounding.
Right, and that's about it, which he gave us, that bounding, right, which fits.
And it all kind of happened so fast that I didn't have time to think right in that moment, but from that moment on for several weeks and months even, it was definitely a fear and a danger. I had, my son at the time was 4, and trying to be strong and be mom, getting him in and out of the house and getting to the car because the place that I lived at was the long driveway deep into the woods. And I, would be like, come on, buddy, come on, let's go. Or trying to carry him because I was trying to rush to the car without him knowing I was scared that thing was lurking and watching us. So my mom believed me whenever I told my mom about it. But she had a story of her own back when she was younger. She's gonna be 65 this year. And as a small child, at 5 or 6, her parents supposedly knew of this thing in Michigan. And my grandmother, I guess, stood at the door with a loaded shotgun while all 5 of the kids were up against the door while it clawed the front door.
The question I have for you is, had your mom told you this story about this event prior to this?
No.
Nothing
Nope.
at all?
I mean, it would be very, very bizarre human behavior. Turn and bolt across the field.
And so he got down, he said about 200 feet, 200 yards. They were coming this way when they saw it.
Right. So he drops her off.
He's
and
coming
he's
back this way.
Yeah.
So he got past it, turned around. By the time he got back, it was already
basically entering the wood line, right?
Right. Which would be really hard for a human to do. That'd be a very fast human being.
Like I said, I try not to let it get to me. I've definitely prayed over it. I do not think of it as often as I used to, but I can still very vividly, picture that sighting every time. Every time I drive down that road, I don't always feel like it's there, but I remember seeing it there every time I drive down that road. And I'm not giving any names or information because and there have been 2 other people that have seen what we saw. One was a younger kid, and he watched it in his rearview mirror of his car, standing in the road, whenever he stopped, what was that? Because it was in the evening or at night. He had slammed on the brakes, and he saw it standing behind him in the brake lights.
And the one story of the couple that we know quite well, but we're not going to say names, they seen it explained to a T, but it was eating roadkill.
Yep. Yeah.
And I guess it looked
exactly the same.
I don't care that you're there, I'm eating.
My impression of them is that Like I told you, unless that was a very tightly choreographed story.
Yeah.
The interplay back and forth, like it felt natural. He had one experience, she had another. They were similar but different.
There are not as many off-ramps on this one because they don't seem like they're lying.
No, no.
It doesn't seem like plausible human behavior. Setting aside the physicality of crossing and reaching out.
Right. Dude, that's big.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that people get. So some of the stories are, it's been put in my head, like, I'm going to kill you. Like, you need to get out of here. People have heard these things speak. They've heard. So, yeah, I'm glad you guys didn't have that.
I mean,
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
I
Like,
might have had some
you're
mental
going.
illness, issues if I would have seen it much longer or it spoke to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have ever been able to not think about it.
We decided to spend our last night in the Moraine State Forest, where Doug had been nearly paralyzed with fear, where the Kings had identified other high strangeness. Just like Shenango and Livermore, Moraine had been intentionally flooded, displacing both the living and the dead from their resting places. There were unmistakable historical similarities amongst these regions that I couldn't ignore. I wanted to see the cemetery, to walk in Doug's footsteps, to pass through this reportedly haunted region where entities could sometimes slip between worlds. So, Livermore Cemetery, that place had been moved, right? The bodies had been moved, at least the headstones, right? That's what that guy said, at least the headstones were moved. No, that was Jenny. Shenango, did they move a cemetery?
Jamie and Jenny told us about the displaced dead there.
Right.
This Snyder Cemetery tonight, I'm not sure if that was displaced or that was there, but again, when that was put there, it's pretty much like right at the water's edge now.
And it's near where Doug had his...
Correct, yeah.
I still don't know what to call it, experience, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny because Godfrey spent a lot of time talking about the Dogman's connection to waters, whether it's where rivers come together or bends in or how they travel along water. And now here we are looking for Dogman and we find 3 areas intentionally flooded. Yeah. We were pointed to another one of those weird arrow things, right? Toward Moraine and Snyder Cemetery.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Cliff Barrickman, one of the coolest Sasquatch photos that he's still studying came out of Moraine. But I think at that Schneider Cemetery is, it was a Swiss family. So the Schneider Cemetery is very haunted and it's got like a brick wall around it. And I think it's basically just maybe 12 graves, I'm not sure, but we've been there before. And yeah, we've had EVPs, so EVPs there.
Jamie talked about as well, like he's gotten reports out of this area of like lots of high strangeness stuff. I think there was a winged
portals and stuff.
Yeah, right. That was the thing that.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you think about Godfrey, where she's talking about doorways or portals that the natives believes that these things travel through.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a ubiquitous storyline. That's Crowley thought the Adena had opened portals, and you get a lot of this weird activity around those areas. And the thing with, Pennsylvania is it doesn't seem like the mountains slowed down industry very much. They just plowed right through them.
Right.
And the same kind of thing with all the flooded areas. Who knows how many, displaced dead there are in these sites that were set up with all of this intention on them as sacred ritual space to allow things to come through. Like, you don't know what's under your feet, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm going to say it again, like Pennsylvania, this western part of New York, Ohio, and West Virginia have really high strangeness. Like, if people on the West Coast were to hear some of the stuff that happens here, there is a difference. And there's a difference, too, with, like, people on the West Coast with their research or Bigfoot observations, whatever you want to call it. I don't even really have a name for it. They're a little more physical, but because I think the East Coast, we have all of these like weirdly spiritual, and I don't think the people are different, maybe the way we think is a little different, but there's something about east of the Mississippi. There is something.
That's how I roll. As long as you get the shot. Sacrifice life and live before you get the shot.
I think we all know we're not outrunning the Dogman. Like, if he's gonna get you, he's gonna get you. Not that it'll be able to be picking up anything, but I'm gonna fire mine up too. Makes it Sunday, May 14th. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. We're out at another cemetery. Force myself. I don't know why I say that, but I am here along with Ward and Justin. I've got a shotgun mic. Justin's got his camera. Ward is rocking the NB. Let's find Dogman.
Just listen for a minute and see what.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear that, or was that?
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah. Good
It is colder, right?
It's quiet.
Yeah.
Like there's no spring peepers or anything. Maybe far distance. But
Also, it's a lot, like, yeah, it's cold.
still, that's what I said. Every time I'm back here, it's cold still.
Yeah. Man.
It's cold.
It is. It's really cold.
Yeah, so I think we go down to the water's edge, and we'll put out the K2 meter, and we'll start audio recording. Probably kind of listen through that the shotgun mic, just to get used to what the woods sound like right now. And then I woke up a little bit ago with just sort of the instinct to write a prayer to do down there and just see what happens, if anything.
It's not a prayer to Hecate, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not funny.
Our Father in heaven, you are the source and giver of life and every good gift, which are all we know, taste, touch, feel, smell, and see. In you, all mysteries of the universe cohere, and all that brings us wonder is held together in perfect clarity and unity, without contradiction.
Though we've rebelled against your rightful rule, and no sinful man could stand in your presence, you have condescended to reconcile man to yourself by means of a sacrifice, pouring out the cup of your just punishment on another, even your only begotten Son, Jesus the Christ. In his death we are reckoned dead, and in his resurrection we know that he has drunk the cup of your wrath down to the dregs, with none left over for us. Now we as men enter boldly, raised up so high above our station to walk into your very throne room. We gather here tonight, led to this place and this moment by your providential hand. We do not seek to know out of our place or ahead of our time or to see beyond our ordained limits, but because you've made the world a strange and vibrant place, where meaning is inescapably woven into the harmony of existence, and the seen world is but a dim reflection of the unseen, we do seek to exhibit your glory and the authority you've given to Christ, all authority, heaven and on earth and under the earth. All creatures in all realms tremble at his voice, the very voice that you say commands your angelic hosts concerning us. We humbly ask now that if it be your will, we capture or document some evidence of a presence or intelligence here, a creature, physical or not, that it would be ushered forth by the authority of your command and the work of your angels. Allow us to capture whatever serves the story that you've sent us to tell. In the name of Jesus and for the cause of his kingdom we pray. Amen.
Throughout the course of our adventure, we'd asked for whatever might serve our pursuit of the truth, what would help us to tell the story we were meant to tell. We asked that we be shown what we needed to see when we needed to see it. I didn't find myself any closer to believing in Dogman, but maybe I believed a bit more in the people who do. Here at the end, where others had found dread and fear and uncertainty, we had discovered peace and fellowship and wonder. We stood together and watched shooting stars sear the firmament, the blazing finite against deep infinity. We listened to a choir of crickets and bullfrogs, their song punctuated by other voices calling out of the living, breathing night. On the other side of the flooded lake, a coyote taunted his rival, and somewhere nearby, an owl asked, who was out there so late, with an ear to hear?
It's like a choir.
See my reflection at all, caught in a web, spinning me down. Heartbreak calls like a siren, sweet and alone. Honey to my lips, I suckle and I drown. Head underwater, never to be found.